I fix my eyes on Christ. I fix my eyes on Christ.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Colton's Reviews, where I, Colton, like to review Bibles, books, and other theology-related things. Thanks so much for tuning in. Today I got a little different video for you. I'm not just kind of reviewing one particular Bible, but I really want to do a comparison of two editions of the Bible that I really love and have somewhat of a similar format, though one is definitely a little bit bigger. And that is the Cambridge Clarion, and I have this in the ESV translation here, and the Thomas Nelson single column reference here in the New King James Version. These are two, probably easily, I would say, my two favorite translations of Scripture. Also in two of my favorite formats of Scripture. They are both single column with references on the side. And I thought it would be good to just do a comparison really quick to show you guys if you're maybe thinking about, particularly if you're like a New King James person and you're thinking about either going with the single column reference or the Cambridge Clarion of the New King James, then this might be a good video for you. The closest thing Crossway does to a single column reference like the New King James is going to be really not a reference at all. It's, at least in my, from what I'm thinking, I could be wrong, y'all let me know in the comments, but I think the closest premium edition that I would compare to these two would be maybe the ESV Heirloom Heritage Bible, which is a single column format but with no references. I think it does have textual footnotes though at the bottom. Not sure. Anyway, I'm going to compare these two. I think they're both really cool Bibles, and I figured it'd be cool to see them side by side and what the difference is. So without further ado, let's take a look down there and see what they look like. All right, folks, here we have the Cambridge Clarion in the ESV and the Thomas Nelson single column reference in the New King James Version side by side. And you can already see one of the biggest differences here is the size between the two. The Thomas Nelson is just a little bit longer or taller, however you'd say that, than the Cambridge. Okay, so as far as thickness goes, bump the camera, sorry about that, they're pretty close as far as thickness is concerned. The New King James is, I think, just a hair thicker. And maybe just a hair wider. Although the text blocks, I'm not quite sure. They look very similar, very close. I think overall, the New King James is going to be just a little bit larger of a Bible. Obviously, another big difference is the covers are both goatskin, both edge-lined. Excellent construction. The Cambridge has two ribbons, both red. The New King James has a blue, red, and brown ribbon. On the outside, there's not, it's not super comparable. The goatskin is just different on each one. I will say the Thomas Nelson here is not as floppy. I mean, it still holds its own. It stays open easy enough. But the Cambridge is definitely like a flimsier feeling cover. I don't mean to say that negatively. It's still very nice and solid. But yeah, I'm not going to waste a ton of time though in comparison of the outside, other than the size. I think is obvious. Like, here's my hand on this one, here's my hand on this one. They're both, in my opinion, quite easy to carry around. They are excellent, for me anyway, EDC sort of Bibles. But I did want to kind of give this side by side because I think a lot of people mistakenly think that maybe this Thomas Nelson is just giant, and it's really not. It's thick, but it's not humongous. Let's look at the text. Here is the Psalms. Here's the Psalm 50 in the New King James from Thomas Nelson. And here is Psalm 50 in the Cambridge Clarion. Now, the ghosting seems to be a little bit worse in the Clarion. It's not that bad. Both of them have line matching, so it's not really terrible when reading it. But I will say from like a feel perspective, the paper is definitely thinner on the Clarion. It's a little bit more substantial on the New King James there. There's Deuteronomy. You can see the references on the side. Deuteronomy in the Clarion. Here's Deuteronomy in the Thomas Nelson. Both have side column references, both single column. Big difference you can already see, I haven't already pointed out, in the Thomas Nelson is the red accented, so red references and red chapter numbers, and also it's red up here, which in my opinion just sets this on, another plane as far as the text block goes. I just think it's a huge advantage. Maybe that's just me. And then let's go to the New Testament here really quick. And I'll just pull up a section of the Gospels. Here's Matthew. There's a black letter text. And in the Clarion, there's Mark. Also a black letter text. Both of them, the text block, people worry about it going into the gutter. Depending on how you're sitting or how you're holding it, that might be an issue. But for me, I don't really have a problem with it running into the gutter. As you can see, it looks they put ample margin there, at least in my opinion, for keeping it out of the gutter, where you're still able to read the text without it being, just crammed in there. Anyway, guys, that's really it. I just kind of wanted to do a quick side-by-side comparison of these two Bibles. I think they're both excellent Bibles, both beautifully constructed. I will say this, if you're a New King James person, another thing to consider here is for the goatskin edition, the premier collection of this NKJV here, it's going to be significantly cheaper than the Clarion if you want goatskin. You can get the Clarion in either calf split or calf skin for a little bit cheaper, but ultimately, the Thomas Nelson, I think, is a bit better value for money. But then again, Cambridge is excellent quality when it comes to making Bibles, so it's really a toss-up. I love both of these editions, and honestly, they're both kind of my preferred Bible as I've kind of gone on to really enjoy single column paragraph format Bibles. These guys are really up there for me. Another one I might show off later, I do have an ESV Legacy Bible. I think that's what it's called, the Legacy, where it's single column verse. It's not verse by verse, it's paragraph format. But these two I just felt were so comparable. They share a lot of similarities, and I thought it was worth showing a comparison, a side-by-side. So that's going to do it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.